he gets to be on like radio shows talking about how like, yeah, I fucked Britney Spears, the Virgin, and laughing about it. And really, this nigga has never been brought to justice.
Not
Ever.
justice. Not
For that,
justified. Real justification.
for Janet, not really.
I expect Justin to come back with a sincere apology track on the Trolls 3 soundtrack. That's all he has to do. That's what needs to happen next.
Welcome to Keep It, Crooked Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III. I'm a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Virtel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
And I'm Aida Osman. I'm a TV writer and alleged comedian.
Let's get into it.
Friday saw the release of the New York Times produced documentary, The Framing of Britney Spears. And let me tell you, I want to fight everybody.
Lots of people look really
I want to put on my
wretched.
boxing gloves
Yeah.
and fight every motherfucker, from the paparazzo in the documentary to Justin Timberlake to Diane Sawyer, who is currently
Everyone
being
involved.
dragged for this interview that she did with Britney, which is featured in the doc, which discusses the media's relationship with Britney Spears, the Free Britney movement, and the conservatorship. Diane Sawyer reads to Britney this quote that was said about her post Justin's breakup from Kendall Ehrlich, a governor's wife, who says, "I wish that I could shoot Britney Spears because of the
Baffling.
example that she is
What?
leading to my children." It reminds me of like this most insane moment from The Bachelor, where my roommate shows me all the time. It's like where Chris Harrison like reads the awful things that fans say about The Bachelorette because she slept with one of the guys before it got to the overnights that they do at the end of the show, like people calling her a whore. I saw no clearer line between the connection between reality television and the media and how they produce things in Diane Sawyer reading this quote aloud to Britney Spears, and we're just watching her reaction to it and being like, how do you feel about this woman saying that she wishes she could shoot you? And even worse, I looked it up. This speech was given at an anti-domestic violence conference.
No
and the
fucking
woman,
way.
the
What?
woman was talking about how celebrities and the example that they set for young women is why women end up in domestic violence situations. Republicans are crazy.
Did you guys often have moments when you're watching this documentary where it felt like satirical clips that were created? Like,
Yeah.
they showed the Family Feud reel where they were just like, name something that Britney Spears has lost. And people were like, her husband, her hair, her mind, like
Her
all of it
sanity.
it felt so surreal. And it's the type of talking about women that I don't really think that we see so much now in current times, but it's like the way they talk about Meghan Markle on like a Daily Mail article, like just the most ludicrous way to speak about a person. Such a painful documentary to watch. So
It is.
sad.
Also, it reminded me of during the Taylor Swift documentary, there's footage of someone on Fox News calling her something horrible. There's no accounting for the amount of horrible things said about these people and also to these people. I just want to say about Diane Sawyer, what a crazy job that you would both interview somebody like Vladimir Putin about whatever, war crimes, and then it's your job to ask Britney Spears, are you a virgin? Like, just... what is the journalistic standard at play here? It is really, really wild. Also, I will say, even though this is a New York Times mini documentary, it's a little over an hour, and even though, honestly, if you just compiled clips of Britney being interviewed, I'm sure that would be enough for a specific and horrifying documentary. A part of this to me did still feel like fan service, which is to say,
Yeah.
it didn't offer enough context for like the tabloidiness of the mid 2000s, like the Perez Hiltoniness of like who else is being covered in this way. It sort of made it feel like all of this is only happening to Britney Spears. And I'm not saying it's not horrible. Truly, it is a bracing watch. But at the same time, it felt like juice for what I feel is a slightly creepy Free Britney movement. Not that the conservatorship feels correct. It certainly does not. It feels like something that was maybe applicable in 2008 and is since bastardized into this prison she lives in, whatever. But there's something about the Free Britney movement that reminds me of the woman releasing the doves at Michael Jackson's trial, which is to say there's some sort of sense of personal deliverance about people getting behind Britney that it's like getting away from reality a little bit or something. It just makes me nervous.
I was going to mention that moment because I'm like, wow, the scenes of people outside the courtroom with signs like Free Britney. I was like, this is exactly like people outside the courtroom for Michael Jackson. And I was like, there's so much connection, obviously, between Britney and Janet being her inspiration and then like the Michael Jackson of it all. And so that just felt surreal. And you're right. I think that, one, there wasn't enough context about what is happening at that specific time period, but there also wasn't enough context for the Free Britney movement. Like, I wanted a deeper dive into these people because a lot of people are on the documentary and just sort of talking, and you can, without editorializing, the New York Times sort of like lets you figure out that like the paparazzo who's on there, right, is like a slime ball. He's like, Britney never told us to leave her alone. That's why we kept hounding her daily. And then they show clips that prove that like obviously this piece of shit is lying. But the people from the Free Britney movement who were like interviewed, like I don't think there's enough scrutiny of the fact that yes, a lot of what they're saying is true, but a lot of what they're saying is insane and almost QAnon level. When you are reading into everything that this woman says and finding secret clues, I'm like, are you a Swiftie?
No, like treating her life as something that has Easter eggs in it, kind of. Yeah.
And the podcast co-hosts.
I actually am friends with Tess Barker and do think she's hilarious. And knowing her personally, I would say she's not like a crazy person whose like livelihood depends on Britney Spears. But it just, I personally have found the general fandom of Britney Spears from the beginning to be slightly condescending at all times. And like, oh, she's either a mess or she kind of doesn't know what's going on. And now it's morphed into this thing of feeling bad for her for those same reasons. And I just have always found it like a little cringe inducing.
I would argue that at least around the people that I know who love Britney, and she does have a particularly large black fan base. I think that the people who love Britney,
it's Britney, bitch.
And especially me, my reason for loving her just comes from like that specific era where she was the fucking best. You watch her dancing, like the movement is in her. That's why she was the heir apparent to Janet Jackson, you know. And for me, my standing the culture of loving her comes from like she really was it and was serving us the best in the game at that moment. And it does remind you that, you know, like that Justin Timberlake thing happened to Janet, right? Like he treated both Britney and Janet like shit in the media. But Janet like goes away. You know, like the Justin thing helped, but even before that, she liked to take extended periods of just like being out of the public eye. And unfortunately, Britney was never afforded that opportunity. And I think that if she had taken larger time periods, like, and had people in her life who would let her do that away from the public eye, when she came back and was doing music, like she wouldn't have been like hounded. And I think that Janet got to see how her brother was treated. And she was like, I don't want that life. Moments where you just see like the paparazzi like chasing Britney like to her home in like LA, right? It's like, why is she living in LA? She should be on an island somewhere.
Yeah. Please lift her out of here. I think for what the documentary was lacking, it still gave someone like me who was maybe like 10 when Britney's 2007 hair shaving incident happened, a lot of clarity about actually what was going on, about her just wanting to see her children or being barred away from her family. And you know, getting to see this narrative reshaped with actual context about like, okay, she was having a moment and she was actually rebelling. And now if you shave your head in 2021, you're doing like a paper editorial spread or you're Rico Nasty. You know, it's a lot more normalized now. But to go back and to see that and to recontextualize it was really good for someone like me.
I will say also that puts into perspective for me, like how long this has been going on. Like the fact that we're going on like 16 years of Britney Spears in this sort of embattled relationship with the media, as opposed to one that felt a little bit more comfortable. It's like 15 years is a long time to be sort of adrift and to, you know, and she's resurfaced and give us a lot of music that has now become as good as the stuff that, you know, the Max Martin stuff when she first came out. But I mean, it's just so long now, and I don't know how anybody can be expected to handle that level of not just scrutiny, but like condemnation for things that really have nothing to do with her. She really has been like just a board for like a million types of projection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The documentary really highlights that, where it was like she became the sounding board for the conversation about, you know, like over-sexualizing like women, you know, and then like the whole thing about like she became like America's couple with Justin Timberlake, and then when that breaks up, you know, it's like she became like the poster girl for like, you know, the cheating like girlfriend, you know, and like that stuff really hit me too. More so than how the media like treated her, like called her an unfit mother, etc. Revisiting those old interviews where it was like asking her if she was a virgin, sort of shaming her for the breakup with Justin Timberlake.
Just straight up being like, how are your breasts?
Yeah. Oh my God, the breasts interview.
Odd
oh my
question.
God. Yes.
Meanwhile, he gets to be on like radio shows talking about how like, yeah, I fucked Britney Spears, the virgin, and laughing about it. And really, this nigga has never been brought to justice.
Not
ever.
Justice. Not
for
justified.
That,
real
for
justification.
Janet, not really. You
Yeah,
know?
I feel like every Super Bowl Sunday you see a flurry of tweets being like, it should be Janet coming back. Though honestly, Janet should do the Super Bowl again because she only got to do 2 songs.
That's
she only
true.
did,
Yeah.
I think, All For You and Rhythm Nation. Those aren't the only 2 Janet songs.
I expect Justin to come back with a sincere apology track on the Trolls 3 soundtrack. That's all he has to do. That's what needs to happen next. It's your only option.
Like years later, they'll reunite at some award show in their older age, and Justin will fall through a trap door, and then
I'll let Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews. They'll come back together and share their warmth.
I will say, I think Britney herself is particularly ill-equipped to deal with the media because the thing people really love about her is here comes my favorite word, guilelessness. There really was no like air about her ever. You know, just like happy to be there, excited, and, you know, just not super ready to, I was going to say, not just handle hard questions, but like handle horrible people. Whereas I think of like people before her who have kind of lasted, specifically Madonna. It's like Madonna was dealing with people, like goodbye, dismissed, you know.
Can I ask you this one about you and Warren Beatty? How are you getting on?
Can you ask me first? You let me answer. If you can ask me, then you can ask the question.
Okay.
No, can't ask me.
And I just don't think she had that kind of rabidness for the industry that someone like Madonna had.
or you need a family member who it has more of your well-being intact, even though Matthew Knowles was a monster at times. Tina, you know, was very much like had a vision for Beyonce and like also didn't let the industry affect her in a way that, you know, like pop stars before her had like suffered those things, you know? And it's like when you see in the documentary that like Felicia, as much we love her, you know, like who was the official assistant, but
Our
basically
sweet girl.
was like the caregiver to Britney. That all happened because like her mom was like, I have to, Jamie Lynn starting school, like, and Britney starting this record deal, I can't be with her. And when you're already starting out where like your mother or your father isn't a part of this journey with you at 15, like you're going to be like unmoored, you know? And, you know, I think about, we talked about Miley earlier too. My friend Royce has talked about, you know, like he had a guest star on Hannah Montana back in the day. And it's like, you just see the like energy that she had on set is so much different than we hear about like the other Disney stars, you know, who've like faced like hardships like in the media or like addiction problems, etc. Just because like her father starred in that show as well, you know? You think about how like Miley Cyrus was protected from the Disney machine, so to speak, because her father was firmly there on set every day. And it's like, you're not going to fuck with Miley Cyrus the way that we hear that other stars had to deal with bullshit when they were younger and on these shows, you know?
And it should be noted that her father in this documentary, I mean, comes off like a true piece of shit. I mean, I don't mean to say that a lot of her problems aren't directly related to the fact that he apparently was obsessed with her finances from the start and capitalizing upon her success. And the fact that he's in charge of the conservatorship is, like, I'm sure, bad news objectively. But I still would like to know more about this guy, because it felt impressionistic, what we learned about his intentions. And if he is like a complete, you know, miserly, exploitative loser, I want further proof, actually. I think it's weird how little we know about him.
Yeah, I mean, but he also stayed out of the picture for so long and then returned, you know, and I think there's a reason why he wasn't in the picture in the first place.
During her rising success. And then at the moment that she's breaking down, he comes in to save the day. There was that brief moment where her brother also came on. They had a clip of him doing an interview. And he also seems to be dodging a lot of information about his sister, and kind of, it was giving off the air that they're kind of all colluding to keep secrets away from the media about how Britney's actually doing and how she feels about the conservatorship.
Well, at least Sarah Jessica Parker has tweeted "Free Britney," so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's on then.
So the judge is listening.
And just like that, the conservatorship ended.
Kim Cattrall now dating Jamie Spears. Yes.